A bomb explosion in Moscow has reportedly killed Lieutenant General Igor Kirilov, the head of Russia's nuclear, biological, and chemical protection troops, along with his assistant. The incident occurred early on Tuesday, December 17, 2024, when a device hidden in an electric scooter was detonated as Kirilov was leaving a residential block on Ryazansky Prospect. The explosion caused significant damage to the building's entrance, with photos showing scorch marks, shattered windows, and debris. The UK had previously sanctioned Kirilov in October, accusing him of overseeing the use of chemical weapons in Ukraine and serving as a key figure in Kremlin disinformation. Moreover, Ukraine's security service, the SBU, recently charged him in absentia for his alleged role in the mass use of banned chemical weapons. He was wanted for war crimes in Ukraine. Details on who might be responsible for the attack have not been clarified, and no group has claimed responsibility at this time. A criminal investigation has been opened by Russia's investigative committee. Ukrainian President Zelensky just revealed something very disturbing. Even after years of war, when we thought the Russians could not get any more cynical, we see something even worse. Russia not only sends the North Korean troops to storm Ukrainian positions, but also tries to conceal losses of these people. They tried to hide the presence of North Korean soldiers. It was prohibited to show their faces during training. The Russians attempted to erase any video evidence of their presence. And now, after first combats with our warriors, Russians are trying to literally burn the faces of North Korean soldiers killed in battle. This is a demonstration of disrespect, which is currently prevalent in Russia, a disrespect to everything human. There is not a single reason for North Koreans to fight and die for Putin. And even after they do, Russia has only humiliation for them. This madness must be stopped by a reliable and durable peace, as well as Russia's accountability for this cynical war, said Zelensky. And now we have more information about this attack on December 16. The security service of Ukraine's drones successfully attacked a Russian ammunition depot near the occupied village of Markin in Donetsk Oblast a few days ago, an SBU source told the Kyiv Independent. There were thousands of ammunition rounds for armored personnel carriers, tanks, anti-tank guided missiles, mines, grenades, and millions of rounds of ammunition of various calibers, the source said. A nearby fuel and lubricants depot was also destroyed as explosions could be heard in the area throughout the night, the source added. Ukraine has been increasingly capable of striking ammunition and weapon depots in the rear to stall the Kremlin's logistics, hindering Russia's operations on the front line. Some of Ukraine's domestically produced drones have become capable of traveling 1,500 kilometers, over 900 miles, reaching depots in the rear that were thought to be at a safe distance from the front line. Some of the examples this year include the strikes against the Russian towns of Tikhoretsk and Toropets with drones, setting ablaze over 30,000 tons of ammunition, allegedly including ballistic missiles. Ukraine has also been targeting oil refineries to prevent Moscow from adequately rotating its troops, resupply, and fortify its positions. The two Russian tankers that broke apart in the Kerch Strait reportedly split along welds created when the ships were modified in a botched attempt to meet safety regulations. Numerous safety rules were being violated when the ships sank. More details have emerged of the specific design flaws that caused the tankers Volgoneft 219 and Volgoneft 239 to disintegrate in a severe storm east of Crimea. As previously reported, both ships were old, 55 and 51 years respectively, and didn't meet maritime safety rules. According to the publication Podium, both ships were shortened by cutting out their central section and welding the stern and bow together in what seems to have been a botched attempt to meet International Maritime Organization standards. Both vessels split along the weld. The vessels were Soviet-era Project 1577 oil tankers, designed for use on rivers and in calm coastal waters. They were being used to transport fuel oil and heavy fuel oil from Saratov on the Volga River and across the Sea of Azov to Port Kavkaz on the Kerch Strait. The ships had been queuing to unload at Port Kavkaz, but was delayed by damage caused to the port infrastructure by earlier Ukrainian attacks. Volgoneft 212 was supposed to have left the Kerch Strait on 30 November. The storm struck just as it was unmoored to begin docking. Neither ship was meant to be at sea in stormy conditions. They were both classed as river vessels. They were subject to Soviet and Russian rules about the type of sea conditions in which they were allowed to operate, which prohibited their presence in very rough seas. Volgoneft 212 was rated an MPR 2.5 vessel. This indicates suitability for navigation in coastal waters with wave heights of up to 2.5 meters and wind speeds of up to 24 meters per second. Volgoneft 239 was classed OPR 2.0, rated for waves up to 2 meters and wind speeds of up to 21 meters per second. At the time of the sinkings, the waves were 3.4 meters high and wind speeds reached 24 meters per second. Neither vessel was designed to cope with such conditions. It's possible that their captains chose to keep their places in the port queue rather than seeking safety in a harbor. The vessels were guilty of other safety violations. As is common with Russia's Shadow Fleet, neither vessel had its automatic identification system switched on. Volgoneft 212 had last switched on its AIS on the 3rd of December, and on the 11th of December for Volgoneft 239. This is despite the SOLAS 7488 convention mandating the use of AIS on ships with a gross tonnage of over 300 cubic meters engaged in international voyages, and on ships with a gross tonnage of 500 cubic meters or more not engaged in international voyages. The crews were also equipped only with life jackets rather than immersion suits, another regulatory violation. The Russian authorities have now opened a criminal investigation against the company operating the vessels on suspicion of violating safety rules. Russia must be ready for war with NATO in Europe in the next 10 years, says Russian Defense Minister Belousov.
Under the conditions, the activities of the Ministry of Defense are built considering the following key factors. First of all, this involves conducting active combat operations during the special military operation, as well as carrying out specific tasks and maintaining a military presence in Central Asia, Africa, the Caucasus, and Transnistria. Secondly, it is ensuring full readiness for any developments in the medium term, including a possible military conflict with NATO in Europe in the coming decades. This is indicated by the decisions made at the North Atlantic Alliance Summit held in July of this year. It is also reflected in the doctrinal documents of the United States and other NATO countries.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Every day. We had a guy last week, it's 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.